Hello, we are the Cocos Island team, and we are presenting on sea level rise in the Cocos Islanders. To begin, a brief introduction on the Cocos Islands. The Cocos Islands are a group of 27 islands in the eastern Indian Ocean. They are a territory of Australia, and they are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In addition to this, they are the only atoll visited by Charles Darwin during his voyage of Beagle, which led him to develop his theory on coral reefs. These islands have been continuously inhabited since 1826, and as of 2021, they have a population of 593 people.
Hi, my name is Eric, and I'm going to be talking about the effects of the sea level rise on the inhabitants of the Cocos Islands. First and foremost, one of the biggest threats of sea level rise is on the infrastructure of the people living there. Waves and storms due to climate change threaten homes and roads on the West Island, which are home to approximately 140 residents. For the local community, they face climate adaptation challenges due to remoteness and limited resources. The seawalls that they had originally built, that were intended for protection, have actually worsened erosion and increased vulnerability. The livelihoods and cultural identity tied to the coastal environment are at a severe risk due to the erosion and damage to infrastructure. The next important effect on the inhabitants of the Cocos Islands will be on water security. Although systems on the home island operate under urban areas, 2 out of 3 of the systems on the West Island were shut down due to pollution and saltwater intrusion from intensive flooding. Residents who rely on these systems face ongoing water security challenges and often fight for fresh water. Protecting these vulnerable water sources requires community education and better land management.
Now I will be talking about the effect on the island, specifically the loss of coastal land. The Cocos Islands are an atoll, meaning that all of its land is low-lying coastal land, which is very susceptible to sea level rise. Now, sea level tracking buoys placed in the Indian Ocean around the Cocos Islands have measured an increase of 0.13 meters between 1993 and 2024 to the sea level. Now, this is a change of almost 5 inches, which doesn't sound like too much, but when you realize that a lot of this land is less than 1 meter above sea level, that is significant. Now, this sea level isn't constant. It does fluctuate throughout the seasons, with its lowest levels in March and the highest in September and October. This is because the southern hemisphere is experiencing summer at this time, and the ice sheets in the Antarctic melt, contributing to the increase in sea level. Now, this results in parts of the island being lost to water throughout the year. As the sea levels rise, some of the land inevitably gets pushed under the water, and as the sea levels fall, when it gets to March, some of the land reemerges. Now, the only issue with this and the ever increasing sea levels is once seasonal changes have now become permanent, some of the land is now permanently submerged underwater. You may be asking yourself, what causes this change? Well, you may be surprised to learn that half of it is actually caused by vertical land motion. This is the island literally sinking down into the Earth's crust because of its proximity to a fault line. Now, the other half of this is caused by increasing ocean temperatures and ice melts. But the increasing ocean temperatures actually contribute more. This is because it changes the circulation of the water, causing more of it to accumulate in the eastern Indian Ocean conveniently, causing a greater increase in sea level in that area. Now, ice melts do still cause seasonal variation, as shown on the chart on the right. The Antarctic ice sheet contributes 5%, just general glacier melt is another 10%, and specifically the Greenland ice sheet is an additional 10%. Now, a lot of the heat that travels into the Indian Ocean to cause these changes in circulation actually comes from the Pacific Ocean through an underwater jet stream that literally siphons most of the heat from the Pacific Ocean into the Indian Ocean.
Next, we'll talk about the effect on wildlife, specifically marine life. To start off, rising ocean temperatures have caused local ray and shark populations to migrate deeper into deeper water, which has reduced oxygen levels and therefore reduces their chance of survival. Furthermore, increased water temperature has created coral bleaching and has suppressed the growth of seagrasses, both of which are very important for marine life to thrive on. For the effects of climate change on land life on the Cocos Islands, shifts in rainfall and temperature have made plant growth more difficult. For example, the coconut trees, of which coconut crab depend on. Furthermore, Cocos Island land snails are very sensitive to changes in the humidity, which is heavily impacted by climate change. Finally, invasive species like white-tailed deer, wild pigs, and rats are more likely to adapt to the climate change impacts, which increases their presence on the land.
Let's look at the future of the Cocos Islands and the people who live on them. According to the Australian Marine Conservation Society, the Australian government will be establishing marine parks, or safe zones, around the Cocos Islands and other nearby islands to protect wildlife and ecosystems. The figure to the right shows the area of which is going to be put in the protected zone, with the Cocos Islands at the very center. These parks will cover 740,000 square kilometers, or twice the size of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, and will ensure wildlife remains unharmed and in balance. These parks will also provide job opportunities for people who live on the island. Additionally, the Australian government will be providing $5.4 million worth of financial aid to the islands in order to pay for jobs in the new marine parks and support other local jobs and economic growth, making the island a more stable place to live. However, the stability of jobs will not prevent sea level rise and housing issues. According to David Major, a coastal environmental analyst, erosion and swells in water level and storm frequency will pose a significant threat to coastal sediments. With the added effect of inevitable sea level rise, coastal regions have been warned to move inland or off the island to avoid rising waters. It's projected that over the next 10 to 50 years, hundreds of thousands of Cocos Island residents will be forced to leave their homes due to rising sea levels or move further inland. Here are our image sources, and here are our information sources.